I was always there. For everyone, listening, helping, understanding. No matter how tired I was, I showed up. No matter how heavy it felt, I stayed. But when it was my turn, no one was there. And that's when I realized something. I didn't lose people. I lost myself. And what I discovered next changed everything. My name is Daniel, and for most of my life, I believed something simple. If I'm kind, people will stay. If I give more, they will care. If I'm always there, I won't be alone. It sounded right. It felt right. So I followed it, without questioning, without stopping, without ever asking if it was true. So I gave my time, my energy, my attention. Every single day, I listened to problems that weren't mine, late at night, early in the morning. Whenever someone needed me, I was there. I carried emotions that weren't mine. Their stress, their fears, their sadness somehow became mine too. And I didn't complain. I told myself, this is what caring looks like. I stayed. Long after I felt drained, even when my mind was tired, even when my chest felt heavy, I stayed, because leaving felt like failing. And I told myself, again and again, this is what good people do. At first, everything felt normal. Nothing seemed wrong. Nothing felt broken. People came to me. When they needed help, they trusted me. They opened up to me. They told me things they didn't tell anyone else. And that made me feel special. It made me feel chosen. They called me when they felt lost, when they didn't know what to do, when they needed someone. They called me, and I answered every time. No hesitation, no delay. I was always there, always listening, even when I had nothing left, always understanding, even when I didn't fully understand myself, always giving more, even when I should have stopped. And for a while, that felt meaningful. It felt like purpose, like I mattered, like I had a place in people's lives. It made me feel needed, and being needed felt like being valued. It made me feel important, like I wasn't invisible, like I wasn't alone. But what I didn't realize was there's a difference between being needed and being valued. And I was about to learn that the hard way, because slowly something started to change. Not all at once, not in a way I could clearly see, but in small, quiet ways, the kind of changes you don't notice at first, the kind that builds over time. At first, it was just a feeling, a small one, easy to ignore, like a whisper in the background. Something didn't feel right, but I pushed it away. I told myself, you're just tired. It's nothing. Don't overthink it. So I kept going. I kept giving. I kept showing up. But the feeling didn't disappear. It stayed. It grew quietly, patiently, waiting for me to notice. There were moments when I was in a conversation, listening, nodding, responding, just like always, but inside, I felt distant, like I wasn't really there, like I was playing a role I had played too many times, and that scared me, because I didn't know when it started. I didn't know how I got there. I began to feel tired, not physically, but emotionally, a kind of tired that sleep can't fix, a kind of exhaustion that stays with you, even when everything looks fine. And still, I didn't stop, because stopping felt wrong, because saying no felt uncomfortable, because choosing myself felt selfish. So I stayed, again and again and again. but something inside me was slowly fading. The more I gave, the less I felt, the more I listened. The less I heard myself, the more I stayed. The more I disappeared, and the strangest part is, no one asked me to do this. No one forced me. No one told me to give so much. I chose it again and again because I believed that if I didn't, I would lose people. I would be forgotten. I would be alone. But I never stopped to ask what I was losing in the process, and little by little, without realizing it, I stopped being myself. I became what everyone else needed me to be: the listener, the helper, the one who understands, the one who stays, but not the one who feels, not the one who speaks, not the one who needs. And that's where the danger was, not in caring, not in being kind, but in losing balance, in giving without limits, in staying without boundaries, in caring without caring for myself. Because slowly, so quietly, without even noticing it, you don't just help others anymore. You start disappearing piece by piece, moment by moment, until one day you look at yourself and don't recognize who you've become. I stopped asking myself, what do I need? That question slowly disappeared, like it was never important, like it didn't matter anymore. I stopped noticing how I felt, not all at once, but little by little, day by day, moment by moment. At first, I could still feel things: stress, tiredness, even frustration, but I ignored them. I pushed them down. I told myself, later, I'll deal with it later. But later never came. I stopped listening to my own voice, that quiet voice inside me, the one that said, "You're tired, you need rest, this is too much." I stopped hearing it. I heard it, but chose to ignore it. And slowly, I became someone who only existed for others, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know how to be anything else. There were nights I felt exhausted, not physically, emotionally. The tired sleep can't fix, the kind that stays. Even when everything is quiet, the kind that follows you into your dreams. I would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about conversations, thinking about problems that weren't mine, replaying moments, trying to fix things that I couldn't fix. And even in those moments, I didn't ask myself, "How are you?" I only thought about others, always others. But even then, if someone called, I answered, no matter the time, no matter how I felt, no matter how tired I was, because that's who I was, or, at least, that's who I believed I had to be. Sometimes, my phone would light up, and I would feel something strange, not excitement, not joy, but pressure, like I had no choice, like I had to respond, like I couldn't say no. And still, I picked up the call, I replied to the message, I showed up every time, because I was afraid. Afraid they would leave, afraid they would slowly disappear from my life, afraid they would find someone else, better, stronger, more available, afraid they would forget me, like I was never important, like I never mattered, afraid I would become unimportant, invisible, replaceable. And that fear controlled everything. It controlled my choices, my time, my energy, my silence. So I stayed, even when I needed space, even when my mind felt overwhelmed, even when my chest felt heavy. I stayed, even when I wanted silence, real silence, the kind where no one needs anything, the kind where I could finally breathe. I stayed, and the strange thing is, no one forced me, no one said, "You have to stay." No one demanded, "You can't leave." But I felt like I had to, because leaving felt like losing everything. And that's where everything started to break. Not suddenly, not loudly, but quietly, like something inside me was slowly cracking. Because the more I gave, the more I felt empty at first. I didn't notice it, because I was still giving, still helping, still showing up. But inside, something was missing, something important. The more I listened, the less I felt heard. I was always there, for their stories, their problems, their emotions. But when it came to me, there was silence. Not because they didn't care, but because I never showed them that I needed to be heard. I never asked, I never said, "Listen to me." I never said, "I need help too," so they didn't know. And slowly, I became invisible, not to others, but to myself. The more I stayed, the more I felt alone. Even when people surrounded me, even when I was in conversations, even when I was connected, I felt alone. And that confused me, because everything looked fine from the outside. Nothing was wrong. I had people, I had conversations. I wasn't isolated. But inside, it felt different. I thought kindness would bring connection. I thought would bring love. I thought being there would make people stay. But instead, something else happened. I started to disappear. I started to feel invisible. Not because people ignored me, but because I stopped showing who I really was. I showed up as the helper, the listener, the strong one, but not as myself. Not as someone who needs, not as someone who feels, not as someone who struggles. And when you hide those parts, people can't see you, not completely. So even when they're with you, they're not really with you. And that's the loneliness no one talks about, the kind where you're surrounded, but still feel alone. The kind where you give everything, but receive nothing real. The kind where you exist, but don't feel seen. And that's when I started to realize something wasn't right. Not with them, but with me. Not in a blaming way, not in a harsh way, but in a quiet, honest way. I had created this pattern, this way of living, and now I was feeling the weight of it. Because giving everything without ever receiving, no connection, it's emptiness. And I was finally starting to feel it. I remember that night, clearly, too clearly. I wasn't okay, not in a dramatic way, not in a way anyone could see, but inside, something felt off, heavy, unfamiliar. For the first time, I needed someone, not advice, not solutions, not someone to fix things, just someone to listen, to be there the way I had always been there, for everyone else. And that feeling felt strange, uncomfortable, almost wrong, because I wasn't used to this. I was always the strong one, the calm one, the one who understood everything. But that night, I didn't understand myself, so I reached out to the same people I had always been there for, the same people who called me late at night, the same people who said, "You always get me," the same people who trusted me with their worst moments. I thought, maybe this time they would be there for me. I picked up my phone. My hands felt slow, not because I didn't know what to say, but because this felt different. Asking for help felt harder than giving it. I stared at the screen, typing, deleting, typing again, trying to find the right words. Not too heavy, not too much, not too emotional, just enough to ask. Finally, I typed something simple. Hey, can you talk? I looked at it, read it again. It felt small, but to me, it meant everything. I pressed send, and then I waited. At first, I told myself, it's okay, they're probably busy. They'll reply soon. So I waited. Minutes passed, nothing. I checked my phone again, still nothing. I locked the screen, put it down, tried not to think about it. But my mind kept going back. I picked it up again, still nothing. And slowly, the silence changed. It wasn't peaceful anymore. It wasn't calm. It was heavy, like something sitting on my chest, like something I couldn't ignore. I told myself again, just wait, they'll reply. They always do. But something felt different. Something felt uncertain. Time passed, more than I expected, more than it should have, and still, nothing. The room felt quiet, too quiet. I could hear everything, my breathing, the clock, the silence, and that silence started to feel louder. Hours passed, still no reply. And that's when I stopped making excuses. I stopped saying, they're busy, they didn't see it, it's not a big deal, because deep down, I knew something else was happening. And then, my phone lit up, a notification. My heart reacted before my mind did, just a little faster, just a little hope. I picked it up quickly, one message. I opened it, hoping, maybe this time, they would understand. Sorry, I'm busy. That's it, nothing else. No follow dash up. No, are you okay? No, what's wrong? No, do you need me? Just that. I stared at the screen, reading it again and again, as if something else might appear, as if there was more that I missed, but there wasn't. And in that moment, everything slowed down, not around me, inside me, and I realized something painful, not loud, not dramatic, but clear. If I disappeared, nothing would change. For them, that thought hit differently, not like anger, not like frustration, but like truth, a quiet truth I had been avoiding for a long time. And suddenly, everything made sense. Not just that moment, but every moment before it. All the times I showed up, all the times I stayed, all the times I gave, without hesitation. And now, this was the answer. Not because they were bad, not because they didn't care, but because I had created this, a pattern, where I was always the one giving, always the one listening, always the one being there, but never the one being held. And in that moment, I finally saw it, not as a thought, not as a feeling, but as something real. And everything went quiet, not empty, not numb, just still. The kind of stillness that changes you, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you feel it, you can't ignore it. And that night, I didn't cry, I didn't react, I didn't reach out again. I just sat there, with the truth, with the silence, with myself. And for the first time, I understood something I had never allowed myself to understand before. Being there for everyone doesn't mean someone will be there for you. And that realization changed everything. I wasn't angry, not at them, noting the situation. I wasn't even surprised, and that was the strangest part. Because deep down, this didn't feel new. It felt familiar. I was aware. Not loudly, dramatically, but clearly. Because suddenly, everything made sense. Not just that moment. Not just that message. But every moment before it. All the times I stayed when I needed to leave. All the times I said it's okay when it wasn't okay. All the times I ignored that quiet voice inside me. All the times I listened when I needed to speak. When I had something to say, something real, something honest. But I chose silence instead. Because speaking felt uncomfortable. Because I didn't want to be a burden. Because I didn't want to lose them. All the times I gave when I needed to receive time, energy, attention, care. I gave it freely, without limits, without pause, without asking anything in return. And at first, that felt like kindness, but now I could see something else. This wasn't new. It was a pattern I created, not intentionally, not consciously, but consistently, choice by choice, moment by moment, day after day. I built this, a life where I was always there, for everyone else, but never really there, for myself. I gave everything, and expected nothing, at least, that's what I told myself. I don't need anything. I'm fine. It's okay. But those weren't truths. They were habits, things I said, so I wouldn't have to face what I actually needed. I listened, but never asked to be heard. I gave space to others, but never took space for myself. I understood everyone, but never asked anyone to understand me. And slowly, people learned something about me, not from words, but from patterns. They learned I would always be there, no matter what, no matter when, no matter how I felt. They learned I wouldn't say no. They learned I would adjust. I would stay, again and again and again. They learned I didn't need anything, that I was strong, that I was fine, that I didn't need support. And why wouldn't they believe that? That's what I showed them, every single time. But that wasn't true. It was never true. I just never showed them. That I did, I never showed them. That I got tired, I felt overwhelmed. That I needed someone to. I never said, stay with me. I never said, I'm not okay. I never said, I need you. And because I never said it, they never knew. Not fully, not deeply. And maybe that's the hardest part to accept. Not that people didn't show up, but that I never showed them how to. I expected them to understand something I never expressed. I expected them to see something I kept hidden, and when they didn't, I felt hurt. I felt unseen. I felt alone. But now, I could finally see it clearly. This wasn't about blame, not about them, not about me, but about awareness, about understanding what was really happening. Because once you see the pattern, you can't ignore it anymore. Once you understand it, you can't go back to not knowing. And that realization felt uncomfortable, heavy, but also honest, because it meant something had to change. Not everything at once, not in a dramatic way, but something, a shift, a boundary, a choice. For the first time, I asked myself a different question. Not what do they need, but what do I need? And that question felt unfamiliar, almost foreign, but also important. Because maybe this is where everything begins. Not be giving more, not with trying harder, but with noticing. with being honest, with choosing not to disappear anymore. And that realization didn't just change that moment. It changed the way I saw everything. The way I saw people, the way I saw relationships, and most importantly, the way I saw myself, because, for the first time, I understood something simple. If you keep showing the world that you need nothing, the world will believe you. And if you keep giving everything, you might wake up one day with nothing left for yourself. That night, I asked myself something, a simple question, but it didn't feel simple. When was the last time I was there for myself? The words stayed there, hanging in the silence, waiting for an answer, and the silence answered me. Not with words, not with clarity, but with absence. I didn't know. I couldn't remember. I tried. I really tried. I searched through my days, my weeks, my routines, looking for one moment, just one. A moment where I chose myself without guilt, without hesitation, without explanation. But nothing came, and that nothing felt loud, because it meant something real, something I couldn't ignore anymore, because I had spent so long being everything for everyone else that I forgot how to be anything for myself. I knew how to respond, I knew how to listen, I knew how to understand, but I didn't know how to pause. I didn't know how to check in with myself. I didn't know how to ask, what do I need? That question felt unfamiliar, almost uncomfortable, like something I wasn't supposed to ask. And that realization hit me slowly, not like a shock, not like a sudden realization, but like something sinking deeper with every second. And that scared me, not loudly, not in a way anyone could see, but deeply. The kind of fear that doesn't panic you, it just stays. Quiet, heavy, honest, because I started to understand something. If I don't know what I need, how can I ever feel fulfilled? If I don't understand myself, how can anyone else? How do you support yourself when you don't even know what you need? That question stayed with me. It followed every thought, every breath, every moment of silence. And for the first time, I didn't run from it. I stayed, even though it felt uncomfortable, even though it felt unfamiliar, because something inside me knew this mattered. I realized something slowly, not all at once, not in one big moment, but piece by piece. I had learned how to give, but not how to receive. I knew how to show up for everyone else, but when it came to myself, I didn't know how to accept support. I didn't know how to say, I need help. I didn't know how to sit and let someone else be there for me. I had learned how to stay, but not how to step back. I stayed in conversations, even when I was drained. I stayed in moments. Even when I needed space, I stayed for others, but never paused for myself. And stepping back felt wrong, like I was doing something bad, like I was letting people down. Even when I was the one being drained, I had learned how to listen, but not how to speak. I could sit for hours, hearing someone else's story, understanding their pain, supporting their emotions. But when it came to me, I stayed quiet. I didn't share. I didn't open up. I didn't express what was really happening inside me, because I didn't know how. Or maybe because I was afraid. Afraid of being too much. Afraid of being misunderstood. So I chose silence again and again and again. And maybe That's where I lost myself. Not in one big moment, not in one mistake, but in small choices, repeated over time. Choosing others over myself, choosing silence over honesty, choosing comfort over truth. And slowly, those choices became a pattern that shaped my life. A life where I was always there, but never really present. A life where I gave everything, but felt nothing. That night, I didn't try to fix it. I didn't try to change everything. I didn't make promises. I didn't make plans. I just sat there, with the question, with the silence, with myself. And for the first time, I didn't run. I stayed. Because maybe this is where it begins. Not with action, not with change, but with awareness, with honesty, with the courage to finally see yourself. And maybe that's the first step to finding your way back. And maybe this isn't just my story. Maybe it's yours too. Maybe you've been giving too much, staying too long, caring too deeply for people who don't do the same. If that's true, remember this: being kind shouldn't cost you yourself. And being there for others shouldn't mean abandoning yourself. Because the moment you start choosing yourself, everything changes. And maybe this isn't the end of your story. Maybe this is where you begin.